Hi, JQ here. At long last, I finally made the video on how to actually play Sound Voltex, and now it's everyone's problem. This is the continuation of my video series hoping to introduce more people to the game, so a number of things will not be in this video. The previous two will get you set up so you can get moving, so check them out. I have one for setting up your eMuse account and getting the client on your computer, and the second one is all about the different settings and game modes you can play. As I am wont to do, there's an aside for this video as well. A lot of things from the arcade version of Sound Voltex are notably absent from the Konasute version. I've gone over the modes and mechanics that exist in this version in the previous video, so check that one out for more information. Anyway, it's time to take a look at how you play this darn game in the first place. Now, you could play on a keyboard, but I'm going to go over things as if you're playing on one of the multiple arcade-style controllers available, such as a Wacom or a FOSS2. Anyway, let's take a look at that controller. You have a bunch of buttons and a knob on each side. We'll start with the set of 4 white buttons. These are the BT buttons and will form the main meat of what you'll be interacting with. During a song, you'll see white marks come down the screen. When they hit the critical line, this orange line here, hit the matching button. Sometimes you'll see long notes instead. Keep holding the button down until it's finished. There isn't release timing, so don't worry if you don't let go right at the end. Next up, we'll go to the 2 buttons below. These are the FX buttons and work much the same way. These are represented by orange lines, which you tap to hit, and long ones that you hold the same way as with BT notes. The main thing that sets Sound Voltex apart from other rhythm games, however, is a pair of knobs on the left and right. Commonly referred to as lasers, you turn the corresponding knob to keep the little icon inside the glowing line. If you see it move right, turn clockwise. If it moves left, turn counterclockwise. Sometimes you'll see sharp horizontal turns. These are usually referred to as slams, and they might look difficult to hit, but just a small tilt in that direction will work, so don't stress over it too much. Speaking of subtle movements, these work for any laser movements. You don't need to make big, sweeping motions to trigger a laser, so don't strain your wrists with lots of big, jerking motions. Slight movements are enough. When the knob difficulty gets higher, this will be a necessity too, because you'll have to move far too quickly for large turns to work. Now that the basic controls are done with, let's go into more detail on exactly how you win. The win con differs based on which gauge you're running with. There are 4 different gauges you'll see here, 3 in standard start, and a different special one for skill analyzer. I've gone over them briefly in the previous video, or more fully in the case of permissive rate, but let's take a look at them a bit more here as well. The first gauge you'll probably see is the effective rate gauge. It starts out empty, and fills as you successfully hit notes, while draining if you miss them. When you're using the effective rate gauge, you won't automatically track crash while it's low or empty, so you're guaranteed to see the entire song through. In order to complete the track, however, you have to have the meter above 70%, shown here, at the end of the song. You can tell at a glance or in your peripheral if you're passing, because the gauge will be blue if you're below 70%, or pink if you're above it. There's a line here showing the cutoff point as well. If you clear a song with this, you'll get the normal clear mark shown in green. If you're feeling a little spicier, you can instead use the excessive rate gauge. This one acts like a standard life meter, where it begins full, and you automatically get a track crash if it ever hits 0%. If you manage to make it through the song with your meter intact, you'll get the hard clear, as it's often called, and a purple clear mark to commemorate it. There's an interesting one also available, and probably the best default one to use when playing on Konasute, excessive plus ARS. ARS, or Alternative Rate System, combines effective and excessive rates. You'll start out in excessive rate, but instead of failing out if you hit 0, you're instead switched over to effective rate, with the gauge being set to whatever it would have been had you been playing on effective the entire time. Go for the hard clear, but stay even if you can't get it yet. A little bit of extra practice is always going to be helpful. I went over this in detail in the last video, but for completeness' sake, we'll go over the permissive rate gauge again here as well. Featured only in Skill Analyzer, this is a special variant of the effective rate gauge, where misses aren't punished as heavily, but successful notes aren't rewarded as much either. It's an endurance challenge, as Skill Analyzer is a set of 3 songs, And the permissive rate gauge does not refill at all between them. Whatever you have at the end of song 1 is what you'll start song 2 at, and whatever you have ending song 2 is where you'll begin for song 3. Survive and you win, drop out during any song, and the challenge ends in a track crash. Now that we've gone over how to win, and I've mentioned some of the clear marks already, but let's dive in a little deeper. There's 5 different clear marks you can have upon ending a song. The dimmed played mark is what you get from a song you've attempted but not yet cleared. The normal clear mark, shown in green, is for beating a song on effective rate. The purple one is for those who can clear with the excessive rate gauge. This pink mark is reserved only for those who can get an ultimate chain, meaning you got a full combo, didn't miss a single thing. Lastly, this golden yellow PUC mark is only for those who can score critical or better on every note and not miss any. Short for perfect ultimate chain, this is the mark of a true master. You'll also get a grade at the end of a song based off your normal score, a number out of 10 million. Ranging from D to S rank, this can be seen as one measure of your overall skill at a given chart. Aim for the highest score you can. We know how you win now, and the grades for doing so, but the songs certainly aren't there to make it easy for you. Some charts and songs have a number of ways they like to challenge you beyond basic inputs, so let's give you the tools to deal with some of them. One of the most basic challenges a song can have is changing the BPM. If you check on a song's information, you can see the BPM shown here. If it only shows one number, generally it will remain constant. If you see a range, however, the BPM will change during the song. You'll have to either study ahead of time or just play the song to find out when and how much the speed will change up or down. Luckily, you'll get a warning in-game when the speed's going to change. Here on the upper left, it'll show you the current BPM and your current scroll speed. If the BPM is about to change, it will show that here. If the speed is going to rise, it will be in red, and if it's going down, it'll be in blue. A song that uses speed changes in a comparatively simple way, and one of my personal favorites, might I add, is Flugel, shown during this segment. Sometimes, though, the song will stop entirely. This can be a short time or even for several seconds depending on the song. It's usually pretty tricky to keep yourself in time when it does that, so just keep practicing and you'll get the hang of it. There are very few songs like that in Sound Voltex though, and the majority of the time they'll be boss songs, and for some, only for the maximum chart, aka the hardest one available, will have them. Moving on, typically you'll use your hands on the side you would expect. BTA and B, FXL, and the left knob with your left hand, and the others with your right. However, at higher levels, sometimes they'll make you cross the controller and do things in reverse. Fittingly, this is usually called cross-handing, and it's one of the main reasons a song might have the hand trip segment of the radar filled up. A fun example when you get to a high enough level would be Mashiro no Kutsu's exhaust chart. It might take some getting used to, but it's pretty fun once you finally figure it out. 5th Dan players and Skill Analyzer might also check the middle song in the Marinol course, as it's far easier than the other, but basically has Baby's First crosshand lasers later in the chart. Speaking of lasers though, earlier on, they tend to be more uniform, typically either one at a time, or moving in sync with each other so you can easily keep them organized. However, eventually a number of songs will task you with moving them independently from each other, and this is a skill that will absolutely destroy your mind at first. I still struggle with this, and I'm relatively high level, playing songs up to level 16, which for the record is out of a current high level of 20. One early example of this some might face is Onna Kotoba no Shoshitsu's exhaust chart, where the knobs get moved in very different ways from each other at some spots. Don't get intimidated, just try your best and focus on each laser the best you can. It's hard, but you'll get it. Then a song like Gambol here will show up and make you question your life choices up to that point, but I digress. To counter some of these things songs will throw at you later, here are a few advanced techniques and functions you can use to handle the harder challenges down the line. The first one I'll go over is how to auto-crash yourself. If you need to quit to pick a different song for whatever reason, just press the Start, FXL, and FXR buttons at the same time. This will immediately trigger a track crash and bring you to the result screen. If you want to restart a song, you can hold down those 3 buttons until you see the song loading animation start back up. I mentioned speed changes in songs earlier, and sometimes they're not so kind as to have a main BPM in some sections slower, or the BPM ranges can be absolutely unreasonable. To better handle those, sometimes you might want to change the scroll speed on the fly mid-song. It can be tricky to find the right opening, but some songs will definitely punish you if you don't learn to do this. One of my favorite examples for this is Take, aka Bamboo. This song has an absurd speed range and changes constantly. Most of the song you can probably figure out how to read it, but it gets extremely fast at the end, so you might want to slow it down right before the drop. To actually do a speed change, hold down the start button and rotate the left knob. Counterclockwise will lower your speed, and clockwise will raise it. There are other difficult patterns I could go over as well, but these should serve to get you started and are the ones with the closest things to an objectively correct way to handle them. Some things the game will throw at you can be tackled in different ways, so if you see a pattern or something you're getting beaten up by, try experimenting. For people looking to challenge themselves with the challenge settings, more on those in the previous video, you can switch between the song crashing to results or restarting from the beginning, such as if you break combo while set to the UC challenge mode, or if you get anything less than a critical while set to the PUC challenge. To do this, press the period key on your keypad. A reminder that keypad functions like this require a keypad, either an external keypad or if you have a full keyboard, the ones on the right side of your keyboard will work as well, but the main set of buttons above the letter keys will not work, much like the punctuation marks in the main section will not work. As a bit of a bonus and segue into a possible fourth video in the series, did you know that some songs were originally Konasute exclusive? There are a set of 5 songs that were originally limited time offers, which you can now challenge from the Blaster Gate whenever you like any other song. However, if you happen to use the same account to play in the arcade and own these songs on Konasute, you can play them in the arcade as well. These songs are Do St. Co Odyssey, Azalea, Diodex, Reverence Flower, and lastly, Reminiscence. Clear these songs and they'll be unlocked to play in arcade as well. Try them out if you can. The above being said, this covers everything you should need to know to get a good start on your Sound Voltex home version journey. Let me know if you start playing and how it goes. In the meantime, perhaps we should shift to a special epilogue video where I go over the different modes and mechanics that set the original arcade version apart. Keep an eye out for that in the future. Until next time, this has been JQ. Happy Voltexing!